Welcome to the deep dive. You know, financial crime isn't just something you read about in the news. It's this persistent, really adaptive force. It shifts, right? From like basic scams you might see in your inbox all the way up to these huge multi-billion-dollar frauds.
Yeah, orchestrated by some very sophisticated players, criminal groups, even corporate executives.
And the sheer variety is just staggering. It seems to morph constantly.
It really does. That's what makes it such a tough global challenge.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to give you a real shortcut through all that complexity.
Right. We're aiming to pull out the key insights from, well, a pretty comprehensive look at the topic.
We want you to come away from this genuinely well-informed, maybe with some surprising facts, a few aha moments.
And hopefully without feeling totally swamped by information.
Exactly. So what's the plan? How are we going to tackle this?
Well, we'll start by breaking down financial crime into its main types, define them,
Okay, kind of build a foundation.
Yeah, and ground each one with some real-world examples. Some are pretty jaw-dropping, honestly.
Then we'll dig into some landmark U.S. cases, the ones that really forced changes.
Exactly. Cases that exposed big vulnerabilities and led to major regulatory shifts.
And then zoom out a bit. Look globally.
See how it plays out in different places because it adapts, but it's also increasingly crossing borders.
And finally, we'll look at who's fighting back, the enforcement side of things.
Right, the whole web of national and international bodies trying to tackle this.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Let's get started.
Great.
So when we talk about financial crime, it's huge. Let's maybe start with corporate and accounting fraud. This isn't just like simple bookkeeping errors, right?
No, not at all. Fundamentally, it's about companies intentionally misrepresenting their financial health.
Why? To fool investors, the public.
Precisely. Deceiving investors, creditors, regulators, everyone. You see things like inflating revenues or hiding liabilities away in complex structures.
Like those special purpose entities.
Exactly. Or sometimes it's as basic as just, classifying operating costs as investments to make the profits look better.
And often the gatekeepers, auditors, boards, they either miss it or are even involved.
That's often the critical failure point, yes.
Yeah.
Complicity or just, a failure of oversight.
And the classic cases, the ones everyone remembers, are probably Enron and WorldCom. They still kind of send shivers down the spine. What made them so huge?
Well, Enron back in 2001 was just a maze of these SPEs, these off-balance sheet vehicles.
To hide debt.
Billions in debt, yeah. And to create this illusion of profit, WorldCom in 2002 was almost brazenly simple by comparison.
Oh, so?
They improperly capitalized over $11 billion. Just took normal operating expenses and booked them as long-term investments.
Wow.
And these weren't just bankruptcies. They took down Arthur Andersen, their auditor.
A huge accounting firm, gone.
Gone. And they directly led to the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, SOX, a massive overhaul of corporate governance.
And this wasn't just a U.S. thing, right? We saw similar blow-ups elsewhere.
Absolutely. Satyam in India, 2009. The founder just admitted to making up over $1 billion in profits. Very Enron-like.
And Wirecard in Germany more recently.
Wirecard, yeah, 2020. A major tech darling, supposedly. Turns out almost 2 billion euros in cash just wasn't there.
And the auditors missed it. Regulators, too.
Big-time failures on both fronts. It really hammered home that these aren't isolated incidents. They're global vulnerabilities.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk investment schemes and market manipulation. These feel like they attack the market's integrity directly, investor trust.
They absolutely do. And the most infamous is probably the Ponzi scheme.
Right, paying old investors with new investors' money. It sounds simple, but...
It's inherently unsustainable. No real profits being made. It often relies on affinity fraud, too.
What's that?
Exploiting trust within a specific community, like a religious group, an ethnic group, a professional network.
Using that pre-existing connection.
Exactly. Charles Ponzi gave it the name, obviously, but Bernie Madoff is the modern nightmare example.
The scale of Madoff was just unbelievable.
Over $64 billion over decades, thousands of victims. And Alan Stanford's $8 billion scheme was similar, relying on that illusion of exclusivity, steady high returns.
Then there's insider trading, acting on information the public doesn't have.
Material, not public information, yeah. Martha Stewart's case with ImClone Systems got headlines, showed the personal risk.
That it can be more organized.
Oh, definitely. The Rajratnam Galleon Group case showed that. A whole network of insiders feeding illicit tips.
So systematic cheating.
Essentially, yes. Exploiting privileged access for huge profits.
And market manipulation itself. Things like pump and dump.
Right. That's the classic. Hype up a cheap stock with false info, then sell it off to people who fall for the hype.
Still happen.
Oh yeah. And then there's more modern stuff like spoofing.
Spoofing.
Placing big buy or sell orders you never intend to execute, just to create a false sense of demand or supply and nudge the price.
So faking market activity.
Exactly. And it's not just small players. JP Morgan got hit with a massive fine, over $920 million, for spoofing in 2020.
Wow. Shows even the big institutions can be involved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now something that underpins a lot of this, money laundering. Hiding dirty money.
It's absolutely essential for almost any crime that generates profit. You need to make the illicit funds look legitimate.
And there are those classic 3 stages.
Yeah, the textbook model, placement, getting the cash into the system somehow, layering, making complex transactions to hide the trail, and integration, getting the clean money back so you can use it.
It sounds straightforward, but it allows criminals to actually enjoy the proceeds.
That's the whole point, turning dirty money into houses, cars, businesses, seemingly legitimate wealth.
And we've seen huge banks get caught up in this, sometimes systemically.
Oh, absolutely. Way back, the BCCI collapse in the 90s was a huge wake-up call. They were laundering money for, well, everyone. Bad terrorists, drug lords, dictators.
And more recently.
HSBC got that enormous $1.9 billion fine in 2012. They failed to stop Mexican cartels laundering money, and they violated Iran sanctions.
And Danske Bank.
That was staggering. Something like 200 billion euros in suspicious funds, mostly from Russia, flowed through their tiny Estonian branch. It just showed massive holes in global banking controls.
Which brings us nicely to the digital age. Cyber-enabled financial crime. The internet as the weapon or the target. Ransomware is everywhere now.
It really is. Encrypting data, demanding crypto ransom. It's even become a service. Ransomware as a service.
Like a franchise model for crime.
Kinda, yeah. Criminal groups lease out the tools,
Right.
and the impact goes way beyond the ransom cost. Think about the Colonial Pipeline attack in 2021.
Right, shut down fuel supplies on the East Coast.
Exactly. Caused massive disruption, billions in economic impact. It showed how critical infrastructure is vulnerable.
And there's still just direct hacking, breaking into systems.
Oh, yes. The really early seminal one was the Citibank cyber heist back in 1994. Vladimir Levin, Russian hacker, stole over $10 million by getting into their systems.
A warning shot, really.
The huge one for the financial sector about network vulnerability.
But a lot of scams don't rely on hacking code, they rely on hacking people, right? Social engineering?
That's a huge area. Phishing emails, fake tech support calls,
Yeah.
and business email compromise, BEC.
BEC. That sounds serious.
It is. It's very sophisticated. They impersonate CEOs or vendors, tricking employees into wiring money to fraudulent accounts.
So bypassing the tech defenses by fooling a person.
Exactly. Exploiting human trust, urgency, diligence failures. It's incredibly effective and causes billions in losses globally.
And naturally, cryptocurrency has become a playground for fraud.
Well, yeah. The markets are often unregulated,
Yeah.
volatile, so you see pump and dumps with new coins, outright platform collapses.
Like Terraform Labs.
That was a big one in 2022. Terra and Luna collapsed, wiped out maybe $40 billion in value, massive investor losses, fraud charges against the founder, Du Quang. A real cautionary tale.
Okay, last category here. Specialized, sector-specific frauds. Things tailored to one industry. Healthcare fraud seems like a giant one, especially in the U.S.
It's enormous. Billing government programs like Medicare or Medicaid for services never done or unnecessary procedures. Kickbacks for referrals. Upcoding. Billing for a more expensive service that was actually provided. The scale is just vast. The DOJ had a takedown in 2025 involving alleged fraudulent claims worth over $14.6 billion.
Staggering. And tax evasion, that's an old one.
As old as taxes, probably.
Yeah.
Illegally not paying what you owe, underreporting income, hiding money offshore.
It famously got Al Capone.
It did, and more recently, Wesley Snipes. It directly hits public funds, so governments take it very seriously.
Then there are more niche things like art forgery. Seems almost out of a movie.
But it happens. Creating fakes and passing them off as originals. Han van Meegeren fooling experts with fake Vermeers during World War II is a classic.
And didn't a big New York gallery get caught recently?
Noodler & Co., yeah. A very old, prestigious gallery. Sold $80 million worth of fake abstract expressionist paintings over 15 years. Shows even the experts can be fooled.
And even something like construction fraud. Rigging bids for public projects.
Definitely. Canada's Charbonneau Commission uncovered huge corruption in Quebec's construction industry bid rigging linked to organized crime.
And SNC-Lavalin.
Also Canada. Allegations of bribing Libyan officials for contracts. Public works projects with huge sums of money involved are often targets for corruption.
Okay, wow. That's a huge range of criminal activity. When you look across all these types we've just discussed, are there common threads? What really stands out?
Yeah, two things really jump out. First, these crimes almost never happen in isolation. They're interconnected.
Like ecosystems.
Exactly. Symbiotic ecosystems is a good way to put it. Think about Madoff's Ponzi scheme. It needed accounting fraud for decades to hide the truth. And it needed money laundering to move all that investor cash around.
Right.
Or even ransomware today. That whole model falls apart if the criminals can't launder the cryptocurrency ransom payments.
So you can't just tackle one piece.
You really need a holistic view, yeah. The interconnectedness is key.
Okay, and the second big insight
is how central human deception still is, despite all the technology.
Social engineering again.
Always. From, an 1880s scam like the ladies' deposit, promising huge returns, right up to modern BEC attacks tricking finance departments.
It comes down to fooling someone.
It often does. Exploiting trust, creating urgency, playing on psychological triggers. It really highlights why you need that human firewall.
Training people to spot the tricks.
Exactly. Because tech defenses alone often aren't enough when the attacker targets human vulnerability.
Okay, that makes sense. Understanding how these crimes link up and often rely on deception, it helps explain why some cases become more than just catching one bad guy. They force bigger changes.
Right. They act as catalysts.
Let's dig into some of those landmark U.S. cases. Madoff, again, but maybe focusing on the systemic failures.
Yeah, Madoff wasn't just the biggest Ponzi scheme ever, $64.8 billion in losses. It was a colossal failure of the system.
The SEC missed it, right, despite warnings.
Multiple detailed complaints over years. They just failed to uncover it.
Yeah.
Then you have the feeder funds, supposedly sophisticated funds channeling billions to Madoff, doing totally inadequate due diligence.
And the banks.
JP Morgan Chase held his main account. They saw massive, suspicious transaction volumes inconsistent with legitimate trading, but didn't act effectively.
And they pay for that later.
Paid $1.7 billion in penalties for ignoring those red flags. It was a textbook example of gatekeeper failure across the board.
And then that 1-2 punch, Enron and WorldCom, we mentioned SOX came out of them. What was the core failure there that SOX tried to fix?
Well, Enron in 2001, with its SPEs hiding debt and faking profits, was enabled by its auditor, Arthur Andersen. They weren't just negligent, they actively helped, even shredding documents.
And WorldCom.
WorldCom in 2002, with that massive $11 billion accounting fraud just capitalizing expenses, was famously uncovered by an internal auditor, Cynthia Cooper.
Yeah, she faced pressure, right.
Immense pressure, but she persisted. So SOX aimed directly at those failures, created the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, PCAOB, to police auditors, made CEOs and CFOs personally certify financials, increased criminal penalties, a direct response to corporate integrity collapsing.
Moving to insider trading, you mentioned the Galleon Group case with Rajaratnam. Why was that such a watershed?
It wasn't just the scale of the network, which included people like Rajat Gupta, a top director at Goldman Sachs, leaking secrets.
What was it then?
It was the method of investigation. For the first time in a major white-collar case, prosecutors used court-authorized wiretaps.
Like they use for organized crime.
Exactly. It signaled a much more aggressive enforcement stance, a warning that the government would use powerful tools previously reserved for mobsters against sophisticated financial fraud.
It's interesting how these scandals, while shocking, aren't entirely new patterns. You can see echoes going way back.
Oh, absolutely. The 19th century railroad booms and busts, the speculative panics, often fueled by fraud and manipulation. Sometimes only stopped when someone like JP Morgan personally stepped in.
And the 1929 crash.
The crash and the Pecora investigation that followed exposed incredible corruption. Insider dealing, pools manipulating stocks, bankers betting against their own companies like Albert Wiggin at Chase.
And that led to regulation?
Directly. The public outrage fueled the Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, which created the SEC itself. It's this recurring pattern: crisis, investigation, public anger, then regulation.
So if you connect the dots from Pecora to SOX, what does it tell us about how financial regulation usually works?
It tells us it's overwhelmingly reactive. It's designed to fight the last war, fix the problems revealed by the last crisis.
So it's always playing catch-up.
Largely, yes. You get this cycle.
Yeah.
Crisis, regulation, financial innovation, both good and bad, finding new loopholes, the next crisis. It's a constant cat and mouse game.
And across all of these crises, historical and modern, there's that alarming theme you mentioned, gatekeeper failure.
It's depressingly consistent. Arthur Andersen at Enron wasn't just asleep at the wheel, they were complicit.
And Madoff's auditor,
David Freeling, basically rubber-stamped fake reports for years with minimal checking. Then you have corporate boards criticized for lax oversight. The professionals meant to prevent fraud often fail, sometimes spectacularly.
it points to a real systemic weakness, doesn't it? Auditor independence, board diligence.
It absolutely does, and it's a vulnerability that fraudsters continue to exploit again and again.
Okay, let's widen the view now. Take that global perspective. Financial crime looks different in different places, but it's also more connected than ever. What about Europe?
Well, Germany's Wirecard scandal was a huge shock there, the country's biggest post-war fraud. It really exposed flaws in their system.
The auditor, Ernst & Young, missed it. And the regulator, BaFin.
Both failed badly. BaFin actually went after the journalists who were raising the alarms initially, not the company. A major embarrassment.
And the UK's Serious Fraud Office, the SFO, they have a unique model, right?
You do, the Roskill model, integrating investigators and prosecutors. They've had successes, but also controversies, like the BAE Systems bribery investigation being dropped.
Political pressure.
Allegations of it, yeah. Highlighting how these big cases can bump up against national security or economic interests.
And then there's the whole issue with Russian oligarchs, especially post-2022.
Yes. For years, oligarchs used the global financial system. After the invasion of Ukraine, the massive sanctions imposed by the US and EU essentially weaponized financial crime tools.
Asset freezes, banking restrictions.
Exactly. They became primary tools of foreign policy, making illicit finance a key battleground in geopolitics.
Shifting over to Asia, India seems to deal with a pretty wide range of financial crime.
It really does.
Yeah.
You had Satyam, the big accounting fraud like Enron,
Yeah.
major banking scams like the Nirav Modi one involving fraudulent guarantees. Stock market manipulation schemes have also been recurrent problems.
A real mix.
Yeah, grappling with both old school and modern financial crime challenges.
And China. There's state-linked fraud sometimes. And money laundering.
The Fanya Metal Exchange was a huge Ponzi scheme. Billions lost. What was interesting there was victims blaming local officials for promoting it.
Suggesting state complicity.
At least state-linked promotion, yeah. And Chinese organized crime groups are definitely major players in global money laundering networks, moving drug money for cartels, for example.
What about the big financial hubs like Singapore and Hong Kong? They must be targets.
Highly sophisticated market manipulation is a big concern there. Singapore had that huge case involving John So Chi Wen, manipulating stocks, wiping out billions. Got a record 36-year sentence.
Sending a message.
Absolutely. Hong Kong is also cracking down hard on rampant dump schemes. They need to protect their market integrity.
Okay, let's cross the Pacific to the Americas. Brazil's Operation Lava Jato, or car wash, was just monumental.
Monumental is the right word. Started in 2014, uncovered the biggest corruption scandal in Brazil's history. Centered on the state oil company, Petrobras.
What was the scheme?
Executives colluding with construction firms to overcharge Petrobras, then funneling kickbacks to politicians. It reached the highest levels.
And the political fallout was huge.
Massive. Impeachments, presidents jailed, leading businessmen imprisoned. It fundamentally reshaped Brazilian politics for years.
Canada's had its issues too, like S&C Levelin.
Yeah, the allegations of bribing Livian officials for contracts. That became a huge political storm involving accusations of interference with the Attorney General.
And they also had that Bre-X mining scandal years ago.
That was a classic.
Yeah.
Claiming a giant gold discovery in Indonesia by salting samples, basically adding gold dust.
Yeah.
Huge stock bubble, then collapse. Shows fraud hits resource industries too.
Mexico's situation seems quite different, though. Dominated by organized crime.
Very much so. Unlike many places where it's corporate or political fraud. In Mexico, the big players in financial crime are the powerful drug cartels like Sinaloa, CJ&G.
It's not just drug money laundering.
No, they've diversified. Massive oil theft from state pipelines, extortion, human smuggling, generating billions that then needs laundering, often with official corruption helping. It creates this huge parallel criminal economy.
And finally, Africa. South Africa's state capture was a major story.
Huge. During Jacob Zuma's presidency, the Gupta family essentially influenced government appointments, steered contracts, and looted state-owned companies on a grand scale. It deeply damaged public trust in institutions.
And Nigeria, known for 419 scams historically.
They've evolved way beyond that. Nigeria is now a major hub for sophisticated global cybercrime, especially business email compromise, BEC. Nigerian criminal groups operate internationally, as Interpol's operations have shown.
So looking at this global picture, what's the big takeaway? What are the fundamental challenges?
Well, the obvious one is the transnational nature of it all. Criminals, money, victims, they're scattered across borders.
Making it hard to investigate and prosecute.
Extremely hard. BCCI showed that early on. Madoff had victims everywhere. You need complex international cooperation, dealing with different laws, different political wills. National efforts alone just aren't enough anymore.
That makes sense. And is there another common pattern internationally?
Yeah, you see so many of the really damaging scandals happening right at that corrupt nexus between the public and private sectors.
Like lavajato, state capture.
Exactly. BAE systems too, huge public contracts, state-owned enterprises, anywhere there's big government money involved. It seems vulnerable to being plundered for private gain, often involving political corruption.
So tackling it means tackling government corruption too.
Often, yes. Strengthening public sector governance is crucial.
Okay, so that's the problem globally. Let's turn to the counterattack, the enforcement landscape. Who's fighting this? In the US, it's quite fragmented, right?
It is, with a clear split between civil and criminal. The SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is the main civil regulator.
Their focus is investors and market fairness.
Exactly. They bring civil cases for fraud, insider trading, market manipulation. Lately, they've been focusing hard on crypto, ESG claims, and off-channel communications.
What's that? Off-channel?
Like employees using WhatsApp or personal text for business, bypassing official recorded channels. The SEC sees it as a way to hide misconduct.
And they have that whistleblower program.
A Dodd-Frank whistleblower program, yeah. It's become a massive source of tips and high-quality leads for them.
Okay, so that's civil. Who handles the criminal side? Putting people in jail?
That's primarily the Department of Justice, the DOJ. Their fraud section leads many big cases. They use laws like the False Claims Act for government contract fraud, especially healthcare.
And the FCPA for international bribery.
Right, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And they often use deferred prosecution agreements, DPAs, with companies' massive fines and compliance monitors instead of criminal convictions.
And the FBI does the legwork.
The FBI is the lead investigative agency for most white-collar and cybercrime. They build the cases that the DOJ prosecutes. And their Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3, is the public portal for reporting cybercrime.
The numbers there must be huge.
Staggering. In 2024, something like 850,000 complaints, reporting $16 billion in losses. Just gives you a sense of the scale online.
Now, the UK's SFO is different, you said. Integrated model.
Yeah, the Serious Fraud Office uses the Roscoe model. Investigators, forensic accountants, lawyers, prosecutors, all under one roof. Designed for complex cases.
Does it work well?
They've had big successes like the Guinness case years ago, parts of BCCI, but they've also faced criticism for investigations taking too long or controversial decisions like dropping that BAE probe. It's a tough mandate.
And since crime is global, international cooperation is key. Interpol, Europol.
Absolutely critical. Interpol connects police forces in 196 countries, helps share intel, coordinates operations like Haiti the Foot against cyber fraud, thousands arrested, hundreds of millions seized.
And Europol
focuses on the EU, supports member states, coordinates cross-border ops like Operation Whitewall, targeting a major money launderer. And don't forget the World Bank.
How do they fit in?
Their sanctions system investigates fraud and corruption in projects they fund. They can debar companies, banning them from contracts. They did that to Siemens after its huge bribery scandal.
So, looking at how enforcement works today, what's really changing? Are there strategic shifts happening?
Yeah, I think two things are really interesting. First, this move towards coordinated industry-wide investigations or sweeps.
Instead of just going after one company at a time?
Exactly. It's much more efficient. Look at the SEC's sweep on off-channel communications in 2023.
The WhatsApp thing.
Right. They hit 25 major firms at once, over $400 million in penalties. It sets a new standard across the whole sector very quickly. Much more impact than just one case.
That makes sense. And the second shift?
The growing reliance on and synergy between whistleblowers and data analytics.
Human intelligence and machine intelligence.
Precisely. Whistleblower programs like the SEC's bring invaluable insider information like Sharon Watkins at Enron back in the day. At the same time, agencies are using tech to crunch massive data sets.
Yeah.
The FBI analyzing those IC3 complaints for trends, the SEC sifting through billions of trades.
Finding needles in haystacks.
Finding patterns, anomalies, connections that a human alone could never spot. That combination of insider tips and powerful data analysis is really the future of enforcement, I think.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. The types of crime, the big cases, the global picture, the fight back. As we kind of wrap this up, what are the big overarching themes that keep coming up?
I'd say 3 stand out. First, that constant cycle of innovation and reaction.
Yeah.
Criminals grab new tech, first mail, phones, internet, crypto. Regulators react after the damage is done. It's a perpetual race.
Always behind the curve.
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
Second is the convergence of crime.
Yeah.
The lines are blurring.
Between white collar and street crime.
Or organized crime, yeah. You see drug cartels running like multinational corporations, ransomware gangs offering customer service like tech companies. It means law enforcement needs to break down its own silos, too.
Interesting. And the third theme?
The weaponization of finance. We touched on this. AML rules, sanctions, asset freezes. They started as crime-fighting tools, but now they're major levers of geopolitics.
Like with Russia.
Exactly. It's moved beyond just chasing criminals to actively shaping international relations and power struggles.
So looking ahead then, where are the next big threats likely to come from? What should we be worried about?
Well, artificial intelligence and deepfakes are definitely high on the list.
How so?
AI can craft super convincing phishing emails or fake documents at scale. Deepfake audio or video could impersonate a CEO ordering a wire transfer. It makes social engineering potentially much more powerful and harder to spot.
Scary thought. What else?
Decentralized finance, or DeFi. The anonymity, the speed, the lack of central control. It's attractive for money laundering and for launching very risky, sometimes fraudulent investment schemes that regulators struggle to even see, let alone police.
And ESG, environmental, social, governance investing. Seems positive, but...
Potential for fraud there too. Greenwashing. Companies making false or inflated claims about their environmental or social credentials to attract investors who want to do good. Exploiting good intentions.
So after taking this whole deep dive, what's the takeaway for you, our listener? What should corporations, regulators, and just individuals do?
For companies, it really has to be about moving beyond just ticking compliance boxes. Build a genuine culture of integrity, top down. Use tech to spot red flags, sure, but invest heavily in that human firewall. Train your people constantly.
And for regulators?
More international cooperation is vital. They need to invest in the same kind of tech. The criminals are using AI, data analytics. Yeah. And they need to be more agile, adapt regulations faster to keep pace with innovation.
And for you, the individual listening, how do you protect yourself in all this?
Honestly, the best advice is often the oldest. Healthy skepticism. If something sounds too good to be true, high returns, no risk, it almost certainly is.
Do your homework.
Do your due diligence. Be wary of urgency, secrecy, high-pressure sales tactics. Those are universal red flags for scams. Trust your instincts. If it feels off, it probably is.
So we've journeyed through this really complex, constantly shifting world of financial crime, from deep inside company books to the far corners of the dark web, and looked at how the authorities are trying to keep up.
And I think the key thing to remember is, while the tools and the techniques change constantly, the basic human drivers behind it, all greed, deception, exploiting trust, those seem pretty constant throughout history.
That brings us to a final thought for you. As we all try to navigate this world where financial innovation and criminal creativity seem locked in this endless race, what does understanding all this compel you to reconsider about your own vigilance, who you trust, how you interact with the financial system? Maybe think about how even the most complex systems, the most advanced tech, often still hinge on basic human judgment, critical thinking. And maybe, just maybe, you're the most important gatekeeper you have.